Steven in Michigan. Hey, Steven, you're on the air with Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Going all right. I'm having a good night, having some really cool calls and got a cool guest. So it's all good. It's all good. What's up with you?
Yeah, it's been a good show tonight. I've been listening to it since it started. I just wanted to talk about something that's kind of in the same ballpark as everything else tonight. Belief and what does it take to convince you that something's true? So, like, we all have different scales of what would warrant a justified belief from somebody, like having a friend tell you something and then you believe that something is true, to the maximum thing of, like investigating it yourself and collecting the information and whatnot. And so I was wondering, like, for you or for the atheist best, what would your scales kind of look like to warrant a belief for against God?
Ooh, for or against a God. Are we talking about any God or the Christian God in particular?
Since you brought Christian, let's Christian God. But I think it's in it.
Okay, you broke up a little bit there, Stephen, but I heard you say the Christian God.
Heard it. Right. I don't know about it from many Christians. They ask, what would it convince you God is real?
Yes.
I've been fun to just talk about what will it take to convince you that their specific.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit here, Stephen. So if you want to try to fix the call or maybe try to call back, we can get you back on the line. We're going to go ahead and just talk about this subject as we may be fixing your audio here. But let's, Chris, I want to hear your answer to this first. And I'll give my opinion, I think.
I don't know what would convince me. I know that seems to be the standard atheist line, but I think it's a fairly genuine one. I have no idea, because if I knew what would convince me, I'd go looking for it.
Short and sweet. I like it. I wish my answers could be so succinct. I'll try to make it as short as I can too. Yeah, I'd say even within Christianity, you're going to be talking about, you ask 10 different Christians what they think of God, you'll get 11 different answers, right? And so it would be hard to convince me of one specific, we'd have to talk about specifics. We'd have to talk about what we're talking about. And even within Christianity, there's some variance. So yeah, if you want to try to convince me of one specific kind of God, I mean, even in the broadest Christian sense, we're talking about Yahweh, we're talking about the mainstream kind of beliefs. I'd say, you'd have to show me how the God that you're talking about maybe matches up with how we understand the world, because how I understand the world, through natural forces, through evolution, through the history of humanity, there doesn't seem to be any room. It seems that God fits into the general scale, at least Yahweh fits into the general timeline of humanity and is like one small part of that humanity and not the other way around, right? We can point to other beliefs and other existences, other instances of people's beliefs in God, and they seem to match up on a grand human timeline and not that, a God first timeline, right? So yeah, that's my take on that. Stephen, are you still with us? Let's see if we can get with you again.
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay.
I was trying to fix my audio a little bit.
You sound a lot better right now.
All right, cool, yeah. Well, that's kind of just what I was asking.
Well, great.
Much.
Cool.
I think the other thing to remember is if I knew what would convince me and I did go looking for it, if I found it wasn't there, then for me that would be a proof that there is no God. And it's not something I think you can prove either way. I don't think there's a definitive way to prove that there is or isn't a God. So what would convince me? I don't know that there's anything that would convince me. That's not to say that there isn't, but I guess if it was in front of me, if something's in front of me, I can evaluate it from there. But what that is, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I
don't know. I don't know where I heard it, but somebody said, if that all-knowing God did exist, then it would know what would take to convince us.
That's true.
And so, obviously, if we're not convinced, it hasn't done what it needs to do. So,
Yeah, I can think
I
of
thought that was funny.
I can think of a few. I always joke. If God called into the show, that might be a good reason to believe in him.
I might reconsider my position.
Might reconsider, right? Like there's certain little instances here and there, but otherwise, yeah, it would take a lot. It would take a lot, and more than just people's personal experiences for sure. Because I've heard enough of that. I've been around the block here enough, and I've been running this show long enough to know that personal experiences can lead you to all different kinds of directions. It wouldn't be enough for me. So, well, cool. Well, Stephen, thanks for the question. Hopefully, we got your answer there nice and quick. And enjoy the rest of your night, friend.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Cool.
See you, mate.
Yeah, it's a common question, I think, and Christians are keen to ask. What would it take to convince you that God is real? And I'd have to ask, like, is it, whose God are we talking about, right? We're talking about your God. And what claims do you believe about your God? Let's talk about those claims, because if we're just talking about God, that can mean a lot of things. Are we talking about the universe? Are we talking about, because you could
exactly. And then are we looking, if we're looking at the Christian God, are we assuming that everything in the Bible is right, or are we taking bits and pieces? What version are we looking at, the first or the second Baptist? Are we looking at the Pentecostal view, the Catholic view? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, the Bible, I mean, that doesn't even take into account of my understanding of God. Like, I should be able to understand that God is a thing without the Bible, right? Presumably, like, I shouldn't have to know anything about the Bible to even see that there's something there. At least I presume.
Bible, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a good question. I'm glad we could answer it.